Main event time. I don't even know how we're going to run through this. Roman Reigns against Brock Lesnar in the most insane WWE spectacle that they have maybe ever produced. A last man standing match for the undisputed Universal Championship. Reigns and the Bloodline make their entrance, and then Lesnar comes out and he walks over by the entrance area, and he just happens to be a tractor, just in case. You never know when you might need a tractor, and you leave the keys in for the guy to be able to commandeer. So he puts on his flannel shirt and drives the tractor up to the ring, and then he climbs into the loader and then cuts off Mike Rome so he can do his own introduction as a big-ass country boy here to kick Roman Reigns' ass. And then Lesnar leaps out of the loader onto Reigns to start the match, and that definitely did set the tone.
The visual from the moment that we saw this guy, first of all, drive the tractor and then get on top of it as they're doing the in-ring introductions with with Brock Lesnar standing in the scoop of the tractor. It was incredible. Like, it really was.
Everything about this was the visual of it.
Yeah, completely.
Like, there were just...
And Brock Lesnar's, pretty, I would say pretty good tractor driving skills. I was impressed.
Dude, there was no one on this show who had a greater level of trust in his colleague than Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Nowhere close.
Yeah.
So we will get into all of this. So it begins. They fight into the crowd. They go onto the staging area by a metal truss. Lesnar leaps onto the barricade on the way back, and he slips and does a quick recovery and nails Reigns with German suplexes on the floor, sets up a table, and then Heyman is begging off, telling Lesnar, "I've always loved you." And it leads to Reigns hitting him with a Samoan drop through a table, and then chokeslams Lesnar through another table, hits him with a pair of Superman punches and a spear, but Lesnar gets to his feet. And Lesnar goes back to the tractor, lowers the loader, and blasts Reigns with the steps. He's then using part of the table as a weapon. Reigns gets up. He tosses Reigns into the loader. He then lifts the loader up and dumps Reigns into the ring. And I thought this part was nuts. I mean, it was a relatively routine little pratfall for Roman Reigns. Like, it's not this big fall, but dude, at the same time, it's like, these guys are not stuntmen, and it's like, what could have potentially gone wrong? You know what I mean?
Just to see a human in this, monstrous piece of heavy machinery, and just
like, what if something goes wrong? He just jams something. It's like, and this is before we get to the part where he's elevating objects. Like,
dude, I know. Like, again, it takes an incredible amount of trust, I'm sure, in Brock Lesnar. I really wonder what sort of rehearsal they could have gone through for this particular match, because a lot of these spots you only had one take for, like one in particular, of course. So it was crazy. Yeah.
So he dumps Lesnar into the ring from the loader, and then proceeds with more Germans and an F5. But Reigns gets up. He goes for the guillotine. Lesnar turns it into his own. Reigns is up, and then Lesnar gets into the tractor again, and this time he lowers it, and he starts to shift the ring over. Cole and Graves are screaming because the ring is literally coming towards them. It's moved across the floor, and then he uses the loader to tip the ring up. It elevates off of the floor. Reigns is in the ring, and he rolls out. This was fucking crazy.
It was the craziest visual I have ever seen of a professional wrestling ring in this state.
This being Roman Reigns, a man who made the determination, this workplace is not safe right now during this pandemic. I'm going home.
Yeah.
How about we get Brock 15 minutes into a match to lift up a ring? You're going to be in it, and you're just going to tumble down to the floor. I'm sure it'll go great. And listen, it looks like it went fine, but dude, this was an ungodly amount of ambition and trust, and I wasn't necessarily comfortable watching this. Like, it looks like everything went fine. There were no hiccups in all of this, but my God, like, you're doing this live. These are untrained stuntmen, and you're doing pretty much like a movie scene here, a pretty advanced one.
Completely, yeah. I would love to know how this was suggested.
You had
How,
fans at ringside here. Like, it's
yeah.
just, there's a lot of variables here. I mean,
How was this walked through? How was this like determined to be safe? What sort of insurance people had to be around to dictate that this was okay, and that you weren't putting other people's lives in danger by doing this? What
well,
production?
they consulted the mayor of Knox County and said, what would we be facing? Oh, just go for it.
No.
Here's
It's your right. You can do whatever you want. Freedom. Yeah, whatever. Like
anyone who tells you no is showing weakness.
that's it. We got a bit
like the left. So,
Um,
dude, this was nuts.
amazing,
Like, this was
dude.
like an all-time unbelievable spectacle. I mean, it's one of those visuals that people will always associate with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns.
I tweeted this out earlier, but like we complain a lot about production in the WWE, particularly overproduction when it comes to shit like crazy camera cuts, cameras in places that doesn't need to be cameras, special VR graphics, for Xia Li coming out, that might look a little bit cool, but then just feels completely like ridiculous after a few weeks. Birds coming out of Riddle's shoes. When they put their resources and their budget into spots like this instead of fucked up weird shit like sound effects and all that, this is when this show is great. This is when this company is great. Stuff like the beer truck, stuff like the milk truck, stuff like any form of truck. This company tends to do pretty well. And
this was a different level, though.
Different level, yeah.
Like go back seriously and watch as this ring, the elevation it gets, and Roman, like, he has no control on where his body is going, what is going to land on the floor. Like, he is just crossing his fingers that I'm going to have a safe roll down this ring to the floor uninterrupted. And I mean, it was, I could not imagine pitching this to this guy.
And just like, how much trust do you have Brock Lesnar? Do you have in Brock Lesnar like using this heavy piece of machinery? And evidently a whole lot, because
a man who's been known on live television to, out of frustration, fucking chuck a car door into the audience.
Well, it's that wild unpredictability that comes with Brock Lesnar that really makes him so special as a live performer, beyond just his incredible size and charisma. It's just like what he's able to do with it. And in this case, it had nothing to do with his size. It's just strictly his craziness. The man is crazy. And you know what? In this case, was able to execute that craziness flawlessly, I would say, in one of the craziest, best looking stunts I've ever seen in this company.
I can't remember where I read it, but someone was joking, like, it was how they got him back to SmackDown last week. They bought him a tractor. He gets to take this home. It was a joke, but I mean,
yeah, that's
it was
hilarious. That is great.
Anyway,
he gets to arrive. Imagine like him like riding it home on the highway.
He just drives this from Nashville,
Saskatchewan,
checks it at the border. So it's just an unbelievable spectacle. And if you did not see this visual, like, you will certainly see it. I mean, if they put this highlight on YouTube, just like the thumbnail, this will be
just the still shot of
insane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, crazy.
The Usos are out. Paul Heyman gives him the title, Lesnar the title, telling him, just leave. Just leave my tribal chief alone. And this leads to Heyman taking an F5 through the desk. And then Reigns spears Lesnar. Both men are down. And Theory's music hits. He runs down. Cole is noting the precedent that Seth Rollins set. And he blasts Reigns with the briefcase. But then Lesnar F5's Theory on the floor. And that's the end of Theory. So he teased the cash in, but didn't actually cash in. The Usos super kick Lesnar. Lesnar's up at 9. There's a spear by Reigns, dropping Lesnar on top of the titles. Again, he beats the count. The crowd is all with this. Then Reigns destroys Lesnar using Theory's briefcase. Michael Cole is, if he does not have laryngitis after this event, nothing will. He was just, fuck my voice. I'm going to give the call of my lifetime here.
There's been a lot of discussion. I mean, once, the whole Vince thing was announced, there was a lot of increased interest in how that would affect the commentary team. Did you notice any difference to you about the calls tonight?
It definitely felt like Michael Cole, and maybe it's reading into it, he definitely had a looser feel. I mean, in this match, he's yelling out, "God damn!" He's joking about wanting to go out drinking with Corey Graves last night, but Corey's at home sleeping. There certainly was like a looseness, and I cannot fathom that Michael Cole doesn't feel like the weight of the world is out of his ears.
Mm-hmm.
Like how could you not feel that to go from what it's been 25 years of this guy used to this, and
At this
now
point,
it's
I imagine it's like phantom.
it's like white
phantom
noise
Vince.
probably. It's like
No,
it's probably
he probably like wakes up at night hearing, God damn it, say new and vicious. Don't you dare say belt.
Reigns. We could just go on and on about this. So Reigns continues to get up. Cole's yelling, he's bionic or something. And finally Reigns says, never come back. You're not welcome here, as he hits him with the Universal title, and they bury Lesnar underneath chairs, the desk, steps, and Reigns stands on top of all this debris. They're yelling that Lesnar can't breathe, and Reigns wins the match in 22 minutes and 56 seconds. And Lesnar eventually rolls out of the all of this that he's buried underneath. Cole's yelling he's not human. The Usos carry Paul Heyman out. Dude, Paul Heyman was just fantastic to watch here. This man was down for like a count of 1,000. And then Reigns is just walking away unassisted. And the final shot is Reigns putting his 2 belts up. This crazy pyro and fireworks goes off. I think all those unvested shares that Vince had to turn over, that 2.7 million went into this pyro display at the end of this show. And Michael Cole calling it probably the greatest last man standing match ever. And that concluded SummerSlam at 3 hours and 40 minutes.
It was a crazy fucking match. Craziest last man standing match I've ever seen. And I would probably agree with Michael Cole. I don't think there was much hyperbole in that statement. It probably was the best last man standing match that I've ever seen. What else would be a candidate in your mind?
There's been, it's a list worth going through because there have been some great ones in WWE. Like they are very good at laying out these matches. Whether
it's up to you right now.
Cena and Umaga comes to mind for me that happened.
Was it this good?
I'd have to go. Like, listen, this to me was, I have a weird time calling this like an all-time great match. This was like such a spectacle is like the best word for it.
What is a match? But like,
well, that's what this was. Listen, this was phenomenal to watch. Like this to me is going to be an all-time remembered match. And maybe there will be some people that at the end of the year, this is going to be one of their favorite matches of all time. Maybe.
You're right. It is a hard one to judge, especially for, I think, the hardcore wrestling fan who I think traditionally tends to favor work rate. This was not a work rate match. This was a spectacle match. But
this was a Jerry Bruckheimer film, okay? It's not winning the Oscar, but my God, was it 2 hours of explosions and crazy effects and CGI? Yes, and it was phenomenal. It was like the Top Gun of insane last man standing matches.
We have seen Brock versus Roman for what feels like a million times by this point. And
they've ended on the greatest note possible.
Well, what sort of wrinkle were they going to add to this one to make it different from all the others? And remember, this was not.
And they were coming off a really lackluster one at WrestleMania. I felt.
What was the original plan for this? Before Brock, Orton, right?
Yeah, it was Orton.
Yeah, God, I can't imagine what that would have been like. Anyway, in comparison to this, at least. So anyway,
hey, Randy, remember a couple years ago at SummerSlam, we asked Brock to like drill your forehead open. Well, this time we want to use I know it would be Roman that he would be facing, not Brock, but it's like we want to use a tractor and dump you into the ring. We're gonna lift the ring up with you in it.
Better yet, put Randy in the tractor. See how that goes.
Oh God.
But, like, what were they going to do to make this one different from the rest? Turns out a tractor was the answer, okay? You throw a tractor in between these two, and you're going to end up with a completely different match. And really, I'm joking, but, like, it turns out the last man standing stipulation ended up being a really great way to take, these sort of explosive, spamming finishers type of, like, style that these two had developed up until this point, and somehow turn that into, something that was a bit more paced, but still built drama, but also gave you an excuse to continue to one-up the ridiculousness of these finishers to the point where we're using vehicles now. We're tipping rings over. We're just like throwing every crazy idea we have in there. But the key, and I think the thing that deserves the most respect was the perfect execution of these tremendously dangerous stunts.
Oh,
involving this tractor.
There was a lot of danger. There was a high danger quotient in this match, and I don't really want to see people watch this and be inspired. That's like, we have to top this. I
don't know how somebody would. It would take a great deal of money. No independent wrestling promotion is just gonna. I would hope not that they would just hire a tractor to try shit like this.
Well, I mean, it's like you introduce this stuff, much like, you know, when people that grew up and saw Mankind dive off the cell, and it was like, you have to top it, and you've got Shane diving off of cells.
See, this requires money, though. You know, like, how many times have we seen like them do the WWE? They constantly do that, or a few times they've done the ring collapsing involving Brock and Big Show the first time. How many indies have been able to replicate that? Some things you just can't do unless.
Well, I'm talking even like in WWE of doing more stuff like this. I just think like this does open it, and you cannot deny this is probably what, like 99% positively received by people. It was like, how could you not? Like, this was an utter spectacle from start to finish, and people are raving about this, and the natural becomes like, it worked, and when something works in wrestling, you try to heighten it.
It's true, yeah.
And it's like these are like. These are humans. These are not stuntmen. And I always go back to that Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Talk Is Jericho show that they did, reflecting on that Hell in a Cell that they did with Shane McMahon, and just like the inches that if they were off, like, it's like, we're not stuntmen, and yet we're doing things that are like, that would be you would need to be licensed, that you would have to have qualifications to be able to pull off. And pro wrestlers are like, yeah, that's something we come up with, and we're going to do it live in front of an audience.
I will say, though, I would take Brock Lesnar lifting me up while I was in the middle of a ring and me gently rolling over to the side. I would take that any day over jumping off of the Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, I will push back a little on the term gently. Like, it was, dude, he was down. Like, he was rolling down, and could have like landed on his head for all we knew on the bottom there. Listen, it was tremendous, but it was also I'm glad everyone was okay by the end of this whole thing.
Yeah, certainly. I would love to know the behind the scenes. I know they don't really do that sort of thing in the WWE, but like, God, someday, you know, I'd love a Brock Lesnar.
A&E will get the rights to this Rivals episode down the road.